Are you losing sleep over an important conversation that you know you need to have, but you're avoiding it? In this video, we're gonna be talking about how to have difficult conversations confidently. Do you know that 70% of employees admit that they fear having difficult conversations, but what that leads to is unresolved conflict, poor teamwork, low performance, low morale, and unresolved issues in the workplace? My friend, if we are going to take our lives and our careers to the next level, we have to learn to have difficult conversations. Difficult conversations, according to neuroscience, release the fight or flight response in the brain. However, if we can frame the conversation correctly, we get to engage the prefrontal cortex of our brain, which creates stability in the brain, reducing defensiveness and creating more of a chance for collaboration and understanding. And scripture reminds us, in all of our getting, we got to get understanding. So let's have challenging conversations, but let's have them confidently. And I've got some powerful strategies that's gonna help you do that, so that way you can stop spending nights not sleeping, avoiding conversation that literally is gonna probably have a better outcome than you think. So let's get rid of fear, let's step into faith, and let me give you 5 powerful ways that you can have difficult conversations confidently and get the resolution that you need so that you can grease the track of your communication with the person that you love and care about. All right, sounds good? Let's rock out. Number 1, I want you to make sure that it is clear what the goal of the conversation is. So I want you to make the goal of the conversation to protect the dynamic. Whatever dynamic you have, if it's a parent-child dynamic, if it's a significant other dynamic, if it's a coworker-colleague dynamic, if it's a neighbor dynamic, there's some dynamic that you have already established. Does that make sense? So the goal is to protect the dynamic. So for example, let's say that my neighbor constantly does something every time their lawn person comes. Their lawn person does something to their yard that impacts me negatively, right? But I don't want to say nothing to my neighbor because me and my neighbor have a great vibe, et cetera, et cetera. But it's really, really annoying the people in my household. And I know that my neighbor doesn't necessarily take criticism well. I'm gonna try to avoid the conversation, which is what most people do. What we do is we avoid things that we should really be confronting. But in point number 1, the goal is to protect us. So how would I have that difficult conversation with a neighbor whose lawn person is doing things that really causes issues with my lawn? What I would say was, I'd say to my neighbor, I'd say, hey neighbor, listen, I love our vibe, I love our connection, I think it's dope, it's amazing, it's awesome. And what I'm about to share with you is something that's actually slightly out of your control. But did you know that your lawn company, every time they come and they spray the pesticides, that stuff on my grass turns my grass brown? Now on your grass, it works great, but on my grass, it turns my grass brown. You're not doing it, but your vendor is doing it. Is there any way you can let them know what they're doing and how it's impacting my yard? Because I don't want anything to impact our relationship and our dynamic, but I do want a healthy yard. Do you see how I took something that seemingly was a difficult conversation, but I framed it by keeping the goal to protect the dynamic? So number 1 is make the goal to protect the dynamic of whatever you've established, and make sure that you articulate that, because what that does in the brain is it brings down defensiveness, it brings down fight or flight, and what it brings up is collaboration and a sense of psychological safety. Does that make sense? So that's the first step, is make sure that the goal is to protect the dynamic, okay? Number 2, communicate first the data and then communicate your feelings. I'm gonna say that again. Communicate the data and then communicate your feelings. But let's go back to the lawn example. So the data is every time your lawn person comes and they spray for weeds in your yard, the chemical that they're using is making my grass brown. It's literally killing my yard. That's the facts. Then I would say after that, and it makes me feel like their carelessness makes me feel like they don't appreciate the time and energy that I put to get my yard where it's at. But notice I didn't lead with, I feel unappreciated, I feel unvalued because of your lawn people. Notice I didn't start the conversation like that. I led with data first. Every time your people come and spray, it turns my grass brown. So I'm leading with the facts first, right? And by leading with facts, it grounds the conversation and it keeps your amygdala from going crazy. Does that make sense? So I want you to lead with data or lead with facts, or lead with your truth. So the truth might be your kids spent $600 that they weren't authorized to spend on your credit card because you told them that the credit card you gave them was for emergencies only, but they used it to buy things that were wants and not needs. So that difficult conversation sounds like, I love you, I want you to have the best, I want you to have more than I did when I was growing up. However, we had a rule about these credit cards and you spent $600 that was not necessary. It's right here on the credit card statement. No, Dad, I didn't do it. No, Mom, I didn't do it. It's right here on the credit card statement and it shows me who swiped what, leading with data. Now, when you all are swiping my credit card without telling me and without it being an emergency, it makes me feel like you guys are taking advantage of my generosity. You're taking advantage of the fact that I've given you a card to build your credit, not to run up false and frivolous charges. And it makes me feel unappreciated as a dad. But I don't lead with that. I led with the data. Here's the proof that you guys spent $600 that you weren't authorized to spend. So lead with data and then invoke your feelings. Does that make sense? It will frame the conversation 10 times better. Number 3, let's go to number 3, family. Let's get it. What? Use calm body language. There's something in the brain called mirror neurons. Mirror neurons are the same thing that happens to you. Have you ever been face to face with somebody and they yawned and then you yawned right afterwards? Or they sneezed and then you sneezed within 30 seconds? Or they looked at their watch and then you looked at your watch, right? Or have you ever been at a speaking event and there was a speaker on stage who looked at their watch? My friend, mirror neurons makes the audience do the same thing that the speaker's doing. That's why they always say to speakers, never look at your watch on stage. That's why I never look at my watch on stage. I never say, oh man, how much more time do we have left in this presentation? Because as soon as I do that, the whole audience is gonna look at their watch. And then they're gonna start making judgments and decisions. Do I want him to speak longer? Do I want him to speak shorter, et cetera, et cetera. That's why they say for speakers on stage, never look at your watch on stage. You feel what I'm saying? But listen, the body language that you convey when you're having a difficult conversation is what's going to help disarm the defensiveness in the conversation. So watch this. If I'm having a difficult conversation and I get all up in my person's face and say, listen, this is what you did, this is how it makes me feel, my nonverbals are automatically attacking the person. So when you're being attacked, you have no choice but to go to fight, flight, or freeze, and you begin to attack back. Does that make sense? However, if I kind of relax back in the conversation and say, listen, I just found out that there was $600 that was put on the credit card that I didn't know anything about and I certainly didn't authorize. Let's have a quick chat about that because let's go back to the boundaries video. We had a boundary. One of the boundaries was we only use credit cards for emergencies. Does that make sense? Go back and watch my boundaries video if you need to set better boundaries with your kids. Right? It's so important, right? But listen, use calm body language because if my daughters or if my significant other, spouse, boo, or it's complicated, or if my best friends see me with a more laid back posture in how I'm bringing up a concern, the mirror neurons in their brain will then match my nonverbals. So if I'm chill, relaxed, and I'm bringing up a tough topic, but I'm doing it in a calm, cool way nonverbally, it keeps them calm and cool. But if I get on 10 and I'm yelling and I'm screaming and I'm using choice words and I'm doing all the things, it's gonna make them do the same thing because of mirror neurons. Does that make sense? So in other words, we call it in pop culture today, we call it matching energy, right? I'm gonna match your energy. You don't call me, I ain't gonna call you. You don't do this, I'm not gonna do that, right? We call it matching energy today. But what it's really called is the power of mirroring someone, which comes from mirror neurons, right? So keep your nonverbals calm. Bring up challenging conversations with a calm, soft tone, and the person that you're interacting with 9 times out of 10 will remain calm as well, unless they're a hothead. If they're a hothead, you can forget it. Does that make sense? It becomes more challenging. But most times, people have a psychological human need to match energy. Does that make sense? So if you keep your nonverbals calm as you have this challenging conversation and the whole way through. Well, Dr. Delatorro, how do I keep from getting the hype about something I'm really passionate about? Go into the conversation knowing that it's already gonna work out. Go into the conversation already knowing that it's gonna work out and it's gonna work out in a beautiful way and that everything in your connection is gonna stay the same. You feel me? Number 4, leverage clarifying questions, right? Clarifying questions is really powerful. So you can use a clarifying question to create what's called the curiosity loop in the brain. So here's what a clarifying question is in a difficult conversation. Help me understand how putting $600 on the card when it wasn't an emergency was a good idea for you. Help me understand that. Like, I just want to understand your thought process. Like, where did that even come from? Oh, well, it was a trip, and it was a surprise, or it was a this, or it was a that, right? So in all, you're getting good understanding. So you'll get more understanding if you ask clarifying questions. Help me understand how, we ended up in this situation when we already had a rule or a boundary or a discussion that said that this was the outcome. How did we get here from there? And what that does is it opens up what's called the curiosity loop in the brain, and it allows someone to explain themselves further so you can get better understanding as to why they did what they did, right? So ask clarifying questions. Now I'm gonna put a caveat to this, family. Don't ask clarifying questions laced with sarcasm, because when you lace your clarifying question with sarcasm, the person automatically goes on the defense. Notice the difference between these two things. Number one, help me understand what was going on in your mind when you were getting ready to make this $600 purchase, because here's one of the things we all understand, right? Buying is an emotional experience that's justified logically later. So tell me some of the emotions you were experiencing when you made the decision to put the $600 on a credit card. I just want to understand where you were emotionally that made you make that choice. That is a completely different clarifying question than what in the Sam world made you think that this was a good idea for you to put $600 on my credit card that I did not authorize? You see the difference? In the second scenario, I'm coming across defensive. I'm very, very sarcastic. What in the world made you think it was a good idea? What in God's name made you think it was a good idea for you to spend? Now I get it, that's probably how you're feeling, right? Because you're blown away by what they did, and I get that. But responsibility means we have the ability to control our response. I'm gonna say that slower. Responsibility, which is what we're supposed to all embrace as adults. Responsibility is our ability to control our response. So you don't have to pop off on somebody. You can ask a clarifying question to truly understand, create the curiosity loop in their brain, and close that loop with the information that's needed. Does that make sense? Let's go to tip number 5, baby. Woo! Right? This is so dope and this is so necessary. Tip number 5 is, after you've had the conversation and you've gotten everything out that you need to get out, I want you to reinforce how important the relationship is. So let's go back to the example. See, I'm so glad we had this conversation, neighbor, right? Because I love you guys, and I love how beautifully your lawn is manicured, and I love how beautifully my lawn is manicured, and I just want to make sure that we can still have our own separate landscaping companies, but we respect each other's yards, because we got the best yards in the whole neighborhood, right? See what I just did there? See how I relationally reinforced the relationship we have as neighbors? So even though it was a slightly difficult conversation talking about how their vendor is doing something that's destroying my grass, I was able to, at the end, bring it around full circle by reinforcing the relationship and reinforcing the importance of the relationship in my life. So here's what I would say to my daughters if they put $600 on a credit card that I didn't authorize. I would say, listen, so just so you know, your credit card access has been eliminated for the next 6 months because we've had this conversation multiple times and you guys still aren't getting the point. And unfortunately, it's gonna take me about that amount of time to pay off some of the debts that you have incurred without my permission. So I'm not gonna let you continue to charge on the cards. Your spending limits have been eliminated for the next 6 months. But know that if there's any need that you have, Dad's right here. You're still gonna get your allowance, you're still gonna have this, but we're not gonna just let you spend willy-nilly, because clearly there's some things we gotta work on in your decision-making process and helping you understand the difference between wants and needs and understanding personal finance a little bit better. Notice how I still reinforce the relationship, even though I had to have a difficult conversation about, and I gave a punishment. So I administered a punishment. It was an effect. So the effect, the cause was they spent the money. The effect was their spending privilege is revoked, right? So it's cause and effect, but I did it in such a way that it preserves the relational integrity of the relationship. You feel what I'm saying? This is how you have difficult conversations confidently. And I'm gonna teach you something powerful that my mentor, the great Dr. Willie Jolly taught me. He said, in every conversation that you have to have that's difficult, he said, I want you to use the 4 Fs. Be frank, be firm, be fair, and be focused on a positive outcome. I'm gonna give you the 4 Fs again from Dr. Willie Jolly, my mentor and my dear friend. I call him my dad in the speaking industry. He says this: in any difficult conversation you ever have, use the 4 Fs. Be frank, be firm, be fair, and be focused on a positive outcome. If you can do those 4 F's, my friend, you can have difficult conversations confidently and maintain the relational integrity of the relationship. And 9 times out of 10, when you address the difficult thing, the relationship actually increases and improves better than it was before you had the difficult conversation. So have the important conversations. Fire off in the comments below which one of these strategies resonates with you the most. What's an important conversation that you know you need to have so you can stop losing sleep, have the conversation, so instead of losing sleep, you're gaining connection with the people that you love and care about. So my friend, listen, if you're enjoying this content, which I know you are, and you want to go deeper, please make sure you check out our incredible video on how to set healthy boundaries without compromising yourself. Powerful, powerful video that will teach you about the boundaries so that the difficult conversations become less and less because people respect your boundaries in a much more powerful and profound way. This is Dr. Delatorro. Share this video with someone that you know needs it. Like and subscribe. Can't wait to see you in the next video.